Next up, we are seeing the Bank of Thailand is preparing for regional integration under the coming of ASEAN Economic Community in 2015. Chim Tantiya Swadikun, the Assistant Governor of the Bank of Thailand's Information Technology Group, said in a recent interview that there is a lot to be seen, particularly in the harmonization of laws, regulations, and business practices. Various committees are working toward a vision of ASEAN financial integration by addressing issues such as financial service liberalization, capital account liberalizations, and payment system integration. The objective is to free up the flow of goods, services, labor, and investment within the ASEAN region by 2015, when trade and investment barriers would be lowered. Given the current sovereign crisis in the Eurozone, one of the AEC financial policies is to promote the use of local currencies for intra-region trade. Currently, cross-border trade is mostly conducted in US dollars. Businesses are complaining about the exchange rate spread and transaction fees. In the future, imports from Malaysia may be paid in ringgit, while exports to Malaysia could be allowed to be paid in baht. Although there is now a lack of trading liquidity in the local currencies, intra-regional movements of regional currencies would start to pick up, and the forex market of local currencies would become more active. The payment system needs to prepare for the spread of Thai businesses into the region. Cross-border transactions are also expected to be bigger. Chim said the number of transactions should grow immensely as the economies in this hemisphere will be more dynamic than in the Western Hemisphere. Chim pointed out that ASEAN will remain a key agricultural region, and 40 years in the future, with the growth in the world population and the depletion of fossil fuel reserves, food and biofuel will become the most critical commodities.
Kunawanan, with the Bank of Thailand preparing to raise its policy rate, as well as preparing for the ASEAN Economic Community integration in 2015, let's take a recap at Thailand and its recent events heading back towards taxonomics. Riding a wave of support among rural voters, Thailand's incoming premier plans a raft of populist measures to narrow the rich-poor divide at the risk of higher inflation and public debt. A rise in the minimum wage, increased rice prices for farmers, and free tablet computers for primary school students are some of the promises that help propel former Premier Thaksin Shinawat's Pheu Thai party to victory, according to an AFP report. The one-time billionaire telecom tycoon, who was ousted by the military in 2006 after 5 years in power, is adored by Thailand's rural poor for its populist policies such as cheap healthcare and microcredit schemes. Now his sister Yingluck is set to follow in his footsteps as Thailand's first female premier, marking a return to her brother's expansionary policies targeting the rural poor that came to be known as taxonomics. Thanawat Ponvichai, head of economic forecasting at the University of the Thai Chamber of Commerce, said the concept of the policies is good because it focuses on how to resolve the vicious cycle of poverty. But Pheu Thai has to implement it carefully, he also added. Thailand has made great strides in reducing poverty, with 8.1% of the population living below the national poverty line in 2009, one of the lowest rates in developing Asia, according to the World Bank. But there are significant inequalities in the distribution of wealth, particularly between Bangkok and the rural northeast, the heartland of Thaksin's red shirt supporters. The richest 20% of Thai households account for nearly half of total household incomes, the Asian Development Bank estimates. Thanawat also said when people have more income, they will spend more, and that will boost the economy. But it is also risky. There are concerns that Pheu Thai's populist policies will cause higher inflation. Inflation in Thailand is relatively contained for now at about 4%, lower than levels in many other Asian nations.
Well, on the nation's front page this morning, there's a list for Yingluck, our first female prime minister, for her to do the do's and the don'ts. So the details of that is the experts have warned the new government to take caution before implementing some of the Pheu Thai's economic policies. Experts warned, for example, the Pheu Thai-led government from pursuing their campaign promise to bring back the rice mortgage scheme, saying it would cost the country's international status as a producer and exporter of high-quality rice. Exporters say the policy would discourage farmers from continuing to improve grain quality, as they could pawn their crops to the government at a high price without quality concerns. The government should concentrate on expanding their irrigation system and spending more on research and development of high-quality, high-yielding seeds. The planned minimum wage rise to 300 baht per day and the starting salary of the new graduates to 15,000 baht could squeeze small and medium enterprises or SMEs that make up for more than 90% of businesses in Thailand. Firms would have to shoulder higher welfare expenses in line with the payroll increases. Unreasonable wages would force SMEs with limited working capital to shut down when they cannot absorb the significant cost increase. Labor-intensive exporters such as garment and shoemakers would have to shift to nations with cheaper wages to stay competitive. Thailand would be less attractive to investors. Meanwhile, the corporate income tax cut from 30 to 23% next year and a tax cut for the first-time car and home buyers would set the Treasury back about 100 billion baht in lost revenue, while firms may not help much by the corporate tax cut in reducing costs due to higher wages. Tax cuts would also result in a wider deficit for next fiscal year. And as the government has many populist policies to implement, state expenditures would balloon. Combined with a budget for mega projects, the government runs the risk of triggering a fiscal crisis in the near future. Academics do not agree with Pheu Thai Party's one tablet, one child policy. Some say the tablets would be useless in rural areas, especially where the internet coverage is not complete. Research shows most young children use computer for playing games and only 15% for them to use as a learning tool. An academic from Chulalongkorn University called on the government to choose the right age groups and train teachers on how to supervise the children's use of the tablet. Without careful planning, what handout would do more harm than good, he warned.
So as we can see, the implications unfolding, we have a lot to be careful of during this season.
Of course, that's right.
We'll be back with international economic reports after this short break.